Get strong. Get strong.
Alrighty, well, a very happy Thursday, and welcome to another episode of the Throw-In right here on the TNT Sports Talk YouTube channel. Thank you guys, everyone, for tuning in, and welcome. My name is Justin, and a little different hourly program. Still, your 2 hours among here, talking all sorts of sports, and we got I think we have a pretty busy episode today to go over, especially since we missed yesterday. But it's 11-1. Had a couple of things that I'm going to need to do later on today, and I decided to put. I woke up this morning and I took my daughters to school, and I told I was going to do it from 10 to noon, but I had difficulties getting up. Now, let's go back to yesterday. I want to apologize for not putting on a program yesterday to you guys because I told you I just didn't know what time I was going to. I had a couple of doctor's appointments to attend to early in the morning, and a couple other things that was going to happen. I had to take my oldest. She's going to like weekly to get injections because she has allergies, and they're severe. So she gets like injections once or twice a week. And so I ended up taking her from school yesterday, taking her down to go get those injections before going home. So, it's kind of, the one thing I'm so proud of saying is that she's very strong. I remember growing up and I absolutely hated needles, absolutely divinely hated needles to save a life. And I couldn't come across getting shots. There was times growing up at the age of 10 and even 12 where people would have to hold me down in order to give me the flu shot, on a sense. So what she's capable of doing, she goes in and they give you, for anyone who doesn't do injections or shots, especially for allergies, it's a special clinic. And they go in and they kind of get the fatty part of your upper, your tricep, right? And then they pinch it and then they stick you with that. It's a very thin needle, but it stings. I'm sure it does. I believe her every single time. And you got to get one in both arms every time you go. And so we went in yesterday, and she went in on Tuesday. But what we're trying to do is, she's still in the first stage, and what she has to do is be able to she has like so many shots before she gets into the next stage, and it's a long process. So to help speed up the process, we're trying to take her once or twice a week. And so she went in on Tuesday, and then I took her in yesterday, and I'm sure, listen, she has to psych herself up, and I believe it. For the longest time, I still not a huge fan of needles. I could get blood work done. I could take a shot here or there. For most people who don't know, since October, I've been out with a lower back injury, and I've gotten some cortisone shots in between, and those are injections. A couple of them were in the rear buttocks, and I've not been, they kind of sting, they burn, they don't really give you anything to help with it. I remember years ago I've had ingrown toenails. I've been battling them, and I thought, man, I was going to grow up. Nah, this is not a big deal. And then I go in to get my first time, and they're injection, they're trying to lidocaine your toe, and I'm jumping off the table because the pain is just so excruciating. Plus, I mean, I don't know how many people enjoy the, touching your feet or anything like that, but someone touching my feet is a complete no-go whatsoever. So, man, anyone who has to get shots or needles, I mean, like I said, blood work, no problem, no issues. Um, I don't like to get pricked every other day, but I mean, I'd rather get blood drawn than, needles in the toes and whatnot. Put me under for that next time. But with everything that was going on yesterday, I was not able to come on here and put on a program, which I just felt bad for you guys. My original plan was to put on a show yesterday, take today off because there's more appointments that I have to attend to, and then wrap up the week tomorrow. Well, comes to find out that because I couldn't do the show yesterday, I'm like, all right, I'm going to put the show on tonight or today. So I got stuff. I was up pretty late last night. As a matter of fact, I get really tired by around 8 o'clock to the point where I could barely keep my eyelids open. So last night I decided that I was going to go take a cat nap. Was asleep for about 2 hours. Woke up and, woke up for a little bit, tried to go back to sleep. And I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to be able to go back to sleep. I don't know what it is, but I'm trying. I've tried watching a movie, tried listening to music, tried staying just complete pitch dark. I just have this volt of energy. So I got up last night, started doing some work for today's program, and I'm like, all right, 2:30 in the morning. I'm like, all right, it's time to go to bed. So I head to bed, wake up, and have to take my girls to school. And it was interesting because one thing that I've learned is that if I was listening to this the other day about sleeping and about how a lot of people like to wake up, hit the snooze button, and then fall back asleep. And listening to an expert talking about this, and I don't know how much this is true or not, but I was told, they were explaining this, was that a lot of people like to hit the snooze and go back to sleep. And when you go back to sleep, you automatically go back into your deep sleep session. Now, I don't know a lot of details. I'm not an expert about this, but I truly believe it because there's been times where you could wake up, go use the bathroom in the middle of the night, go back and kind of, continue where you left off at in your sleep. But I was being told that for people who hit the snooze button and fall back asleep, you end up restarting about 70 to 90-minute cycle of this deep sleep that you must have. And if you interrupt that deep sleep, by another alarm, by waking up, then your body takes itself about 4 hours to wake up and actually get going again. And so they recommend, that's why they recommend when you set an alarm to actually wake up to an alarm. They actually recommend through statistics that if you're going to wake up, you want to wake up to the natural daylight. You don't want to wake up to anything premeditated. Wake up to natural noises, natural sounds, just like a lot of people recommend you going to bed to like white noises, the ocean, thunderstorms. And, I'm a big fan of that. But they recommend doing the same thing, waking up, because it naturally gets your body up and going. Other than hitting the alarm clock that rings ungodly loud, that wakes up the entire block just so that you could hit it and go back to sleep, but it goes off 10 minutes down the road. So I guess I would say I felt a little bit of that this morning, wanting, first of all, not getting enough sleep. And the only one I could blame is myself because, I was wanting to put this show together and I couldn't sleep. And, and it's probably because I took that cat nap early on. The wife tells me never to take that cat nap. But I'm tired. Let me go lay down and I'll get up later on in the night. No, just wait until it's time to go to bed. You'll pass the fuck out. So, I'm going to have to start triggering myself to to start doing that again. Or working on projects at 8 o'clock at night. So, Yeah, so I was scheduled to do an 8 o'clock appointment, 10 to noon today. And I ended up pushing it back an hour. So this will be 11 a.m. to noon. And this is just strictly because of being able the time for him to get up. So I got up. Normally there's a certain amount of work that I have. The most of the work that I do is the night before. Unless I'm doing a show over like by noon or by about 2 o'clock, there's a lot of the work, pre-production work that I do about the day before. And so when I wake up in the morning, I have to just kind of get the final scores for yesterday and, kind of cross my T's and dot my I's. So this is why, and I got home, probably 10 till 9. And I'm like, you know what? I'm just not going to have everything, knowing the time that it takes for me to get everything locked in and set. I'm just not going to have the time to do it. So I was like, all right, I'm going to go ahead and, do a little bit of work, got up, get dressed, took a shower, and I'm like, all right, now we're ready to go. Right. So that's kind of like everything that led up until today. Want to once again apologize for not being able to put on a program yesterday. That's why we're back here today. And then we will be back tomorrow morning to wrap up the week. And things got kicked off to a really big start throughout the week, and once again, allergies start back up. But then, things started mellowing out. But exciting time to be a sports fan, exciting time to be a baseball fan because the World Baseball Classic has begun. I'm currently, I think that there is a game in place between, I don't know the two teams. But there is a game, I believe Japan's playing right now. But anyways, World Baseball Classic is going on. I don't know how much have you been able to watch it. A lot of it's been played either very, very early in the morning or late at night. I mean, I know there's a couple games coming on at 10 p.m. or and at like 11:30 p.m. So, definitely messing up with the schedule. But you get to see, a combination of, homegrown talent and Major League Baseball talent. Now it takes away from what spring training has to provide. And I guess my fear is, especially for our players in the Reds, and I'm also a Padres fan, so I kind of follow guys like Xander Bogaerts, Juan Soto, Manny Machado, so forth. And one of the stories that came afoot the other day was that Juan Soto is dealing with kind of sort of a calf issue. So him moving to going to the World Baseball Classic, and I don't know what the rules are. I don't know how, if you get put on the IL in the World Baseball Classic, I know they have to submit some sort of roster, but I don't know what the deal is with an injured player. If you could come back in the middle of a series, or if you have to sit out the series, like the postseason or whatever the case may be. Um, but but yeah, they begin, and they're going on the way, and I'm like, and I'm thinking to myself, I will never discourage anyone to not represent their own country and play baseball for their own country if they are given the privilege and the honor to do so. I highly recommend that. But at the same time, okay, I really also want to make sure that everyone stays safe. And one thing playing these World Baseball Classic games is that you maybe also increase the risk of getting injured because they're playing at a much professional level and speed than what you're kind of given during spring training games, where everyone knows is that yes, they're just trying to fill for the spot. So I was as much as I enjoy watching the World Baseball Classic and I enjoy these players representing their countries and playing the sport, it worries me of the risk factor of getting injured. And I don't want no Reds players getting injured because I'm excited about watching the Reds this spring. And I don't know about you guys. I don't know how you guys feel. But watching the Reds this spring has been really exciting to watch. And there's a legitimate case for these young group of guys who, supposed to be this Reds future, and they're proving that they can play now. Now, yet again, these are minor league. These are spring training games. Every player kind of has an objective or a goal during the game, whether that is, hey, I want you to throw 10 sliders in your outing today, so the pitcher is going to only focus on throwing sliders so that he could accomplish that goal. Or maybe a batter is saying, all right, I only want you to be self-disciplined at the plate, work on your visionary. I don't care if you strike out looking, but take pitches, work the count, and don't worry about getting on base. Getting on base, we'll deal with that at a later time. So in every spring training game, there is, I'm certain there are objectives on players and outings and stuff like that maybe impacts a game's win or loss record, but it's just spring training. I know a lot of people don't think about that, but the Reds have really given us something exciting to watch for during spring. So it was like, just we'll talk about the Reds and the Padres who played yesterday, and the Reds gone on the win, and I'm like, this is one of the top prospect teams, and I'm like, yeah, it's kind of fun when you're competing against that next level team such as the Padres. So well, a little bit more Cactus League action today. We'll talk a lot about that in our program, where the Cincinnati Reds will take on the Chicago Cubs. I believe it's the first time they're going to take on their division at spring training. I don't know how much more. We'll have to look at the schedule for that. So we'll talk about that here in today's program. Xavier Musketeers begins their Big East conference tournament today, taking on DePaul at Madison Square Garden. So that's exciting to look out for. NXT highlights, as NXT Stand and Deliver is set to take away here just a few weeks before WrestleMania. A couple of challenges, a couple of returns, and plus an update status on Roxanne Perez. All that. A couple of WWE questions, as well as coming up next, we'll talk about a little bit more about AEW Revolution. I know Dynamite, excuse me, already surpassed us last night, and there was, I'm not going to get too deep into it other than the main event, and we are crowning ourselves a new AEW TNT Champion, and I'm kind of scratching my head. And so when we come back and I talk about that, I really just kind of want to, I kind of got some questions, and I'm like, what just happened? What did we see? And all that good stuff. So, like I said, pretty impactful 2 hours. I think probably going to take it easy, kind of come back tomorrow, hopefully hitting it hard. We're just 22 days away from opening day. It's time to be exciting. Bronson Warrior is going to be that kind of like that inductee forefront of the Findlay Market opening day parade coming up this year. So exciting about that. And then we're also just 24 days away from WrestleMania 39, night one on Saturday, April 1st. So a lot of things to get ready and to get under here as we begin our program. I want to thank everyone for tuning us in on our YouTube page. Please hit that like, share, and subscribe button. If you guys are also watching us live on Facebook and or Twitter, hit that like button, share that with your friends. Let them know if you guys are looking to comment and get them part into our conversations today. We encourage you to head on over to our YouTube page and leave us a comment. I'll be able to share that with you guys and also be able to get involved and upload that on right here on our screen. If you also taking us on the road, downloading us, whether you guys are listening to us on any audio platform to throw in, we want to thank you and invite you on over to get a part of the conversation. All right. 2 hours just beginning here. Don't go nowhere. The TNC Sports Talk, the throw-in here continues on the TNC Sports Talk YouTube channel. Alrighty, welcome on back here to the Throw-In. I forgot I had the mic on. So I'll do this again. I want to give a big shout out to StreamYard Studios, the proud home of the TNT Sports Talk YouTube channel. None of this is possible without the help of StreamYard Studios, where you can create your podcast, videos, host virtual business meetings, and even conduct interviews. Check out their free version today at StreamYard.com. There we go. I was finishing up a conversation in the back when we got back from break, and I forgot to hit the mute button. So there you go. 11:25 here on the Throw-In. Welcome, you guys. I know it's a kind of a weird hour here from 11 to 1, I would say, but it is what it is, and that's one thing that's so great about being able to make our own schedule. I like to try to keep it in the morning. Right. I don't like to really have conversations, or do the show from 2 to 4, anything after 12. If I begin the show after 12, then I think we have a little bit of a problem. It doesn't set well with me. Just doesn't. I prefer doing the show from 12 o'clock is kind of my cutoff point. I would like to mainly try to end by 12, the latest, I guess. So, it doesn't really work the way that we want it to work, but had some appointments this week, and especially today, and wanted to make sure that I was able to throw in a show today. Like I said, my original plan was having today off and then doing a show yesterday, but there was just no time in the from an appointment early in the morning to things I had to do in the afternoon, where I was able to squeeze in a 2-hour show without providing you the best content I could possibly provide you. So, yesterday was kind of like, all right, you know what? I'm just going to go ahead and take the day off and make sure that I come back ready. So, and like I said, I was up pretty late last night trying to get some of the stuff put together. And I was able to, end up pushing back the show 1 hour today because we were trying to get ready. I was too tired. All right. So we continued talking earlier this week. I didn't want to rush too far into talking about AEW Revolution. And that was because I didn't want to I want to make sure, because I didn't watch AEW Revolution on Sunday. And I didn't want to give you like premature content about my opinions on every match, because I think AEW Revolution is a really solid piece of AEW itself to really set the tone, like I mentioned, to 2023. And, a lot of people really compare AEW to WWE when, in matter of fact, these two companies are very different, especially in the style of wrestling. WWE is this family-oriented, kid-friendly show that can, combine in storytelling and segments, and AEW is more viewed as an adult program that, you will see, matches go to the next level that you probably wouldn't recommend for a lot of children. I know, one radio podcast considers there we go. I accidentally hold on 1 second. Oh, all right. I'm going to try to get my camera back up and running. I think I accidentally hit the there we go. Let's see if that works. Come on, camera screen. There we go. All right. So let me get this going again. I apologize. I pushed my my audio system back, and therefore things kind of went astray for a moment. Things are just falling apart today on this program. But what I'm trying to say is that AEW has their is more, I was hearing this from people like Bully Ray, Tommy Dreamer, Busted Open podcast, and they were just simply describing AEW is your what's the best way to say it? Is your ECW version with money. And I was thinking about that. I was like, all right, that makes sense. They kind of freeload and they really focusing on their matches and they really try taking their matches to the next level, which I enjoy. And if you're a wrestling fan, there's a part of you're a wrestling fan that you also enjoy yourself. But overall, I was thinking about this and, one of the biggest concerns I had going into AEW Revolution was the whole bleeding aspect where we kind of see, Jon Moxley just bleed constantly for the last 2 months on camera. And, I was thinking is like, it kind of took away a little bit on the perspective of seeing Hangman Adam Page and Jon Moxley in this Texas death match. And, when you want to compare a company like AEW to ECW, they have a lot of similarities and they really go to the next level on showing you that, hey, we are completely different from the WWE. And, they're lights out. All right. This match, I think, was incredible. All right. There's no, when you understand what they're trying to do between Jon Moxley and Adam Page, there's no doubt that this was probably top tier match, 5-star rating, and probably one of the matches that had to beat. For me, what they were able to do inside the ring really greatly told the story. Now, when we get back to the conversation of bleeding in professional wrestling, whether you blade yourself, whether you are using blood packs, whatever the case may be, I'm a fan for, because I think there's a part of bleeding. And I think, and for me, if you're going to bleed, it's only to be done, bleeding should be done naturally. And if it's not done naturally, I think it should be done by blading, right? You should be able to blade to cut yourself open. If you're going to use blood capsules, you're going to use blood packs, which has been shown in the past, then I absolutely think it's a terrible idea. But now, for one, I think bleeding in professional wrestling is natural. If you are to bleed, it should be natural, in my opinion, but it also tells the physicality and the actual, it's used to symbolize a part of the story between these two men. And the story between these two men was that, realistically, who's the best of the best in AEW? Who is that top raw dog who can go the distance and not be afraid to put their life on the line? And both men really has gone at it over the last few months, and which continued into AEW Revolution. Now, for me, there's two issues that I have when it comes down to a match like Hangman Adam Page, when it comes down to AEW, and when it comes down to bleeding. One, bleeding should be done, and I mentioned this before, it's kind of been a heavy topic the last week or so. Bleeding should be done and at the right time and at the right place. And, for me, it took away a little bit from the match because we knew a Texas death match, although it doesn't end into someone actually dying. All right. I mean, a Texas death match is a warrant for blood, just like that 60-man Iron Man match that we saw between MJF and Bryan Danielson warrants for bleeding. But the build-up to it, I think there was an excessive amount of bleeding that took place, especially on Jon Moxley's end. And I have to agree and I'm not going to take full credit, although because I think you know Dave said it the best on Busted Open, that there is a if Jon Moxley, because they knew how this story was going to end, if there was a level, if you understood, if you talked to both Page and Hangman and Moxley, and you said, hey, listen, the end game is for you guys to go on and have a Texas death match, then the moments of the spots where you need to bleed to kind of uphold that requirement, it shouldn't be every single week. It should only be the week of getting you guys ready, maybe a little taste of what to expect heading into Revolution. So and I completely understand that, and that's why for me, although this could have been a 5-star match, I put this match as a 4.5 because of the excessive bleeding prior to that. And like you said, the whole bleeding part during the match was good enough to tell the story, but they should have waited off as long as possible during the regular Dynamite and Rampages shows not to bleed. The other problem that I had with AEW is that this is, I think, is a simple production mistake, and I don't know. I know we talked about this a very, very long time ago, but one of the issues is that especially with WWE, they were dealing with when you're incorporated with Fox and you incorporate, you wanted was a combination of former wrestlers helping and indicating camera angles during matches. And one thing I think we find in AEW is that it's also very noticeable when someone is to get ready to bleed, the camera is kind of angled right on them. You could there's been a few moments where you can clearly see blood being taken, not blood, but someone cutting themselves open. And I think, we're not sugarcoating it. We know if you're going to bleed, there's limit of options. And we know that if you get smack over that chair, smack over the chair, unless someone's nicking you, you're not bleeding each and every time. But to obviously see it, I just don't think that people should or, want to see it. Keep that element of surprise of however you've been able to accomplish it, in your matches. Keep that a surprise. Because if I see you physically cutting yourself after a chair shot, so that you can bleed, I think that it kind of ruins that match for me. It kind of ruins the point in the segment of bleeding, in my opinion. But no, let's not take away from Page and Moxley. Incredible match back on Sunday. And, this was something I was going to talk about yesterday before Dynamite, so I'm a little disappointed in myself. But nonetheless, great match. I just would have reconstructed the lead up to this match when it came down to bleeding. I want to talk a little bit about Ruby Soho turning heel over this past weekend. A little bit about that and probably how it rejuvenated her kind of her career right now in AEW. Plus, we crowned a new AEW TNT champion, and we'll spill all that information out next. Stay tuned. Don't go nowhere. You guys are listening to The Throw-In here on the TNC Sports Talk YouTube channel.
About to leave, already packing. Come with me, I'm not really asking. We'll get away to a place where we don't know. About to see the world in action, what we can be, life with no distractions. We'll get away, this is what we waited for. Take my hand, we'll make it somehow. We can't miss out. I'm done living life with the lights out. Die with my own doubts.
Alrighty, 11:42 here, taking to the bottom of hour number 1 on the program. And I sure hope that this segment goes a lot better than the last segment. So I guess we'll see how things go. Man. So we're moving forward from AEW Revolution. And, just kind of jumping right back into it. I want to really emphasize the turn of a heel perspective. Now, in professional wrestling, and I think that I think one of the biggest accomplishments in professional wrestling is to be able to captivate, is to be able to be such a good heel that you're beloved, right? And I was listening to other people talk about this and how big MJF is, because he is he's kind of he is your biggest heel in AEW, right? He's so hated that he's loved, and there's that many heel characters that could get to. There's very rare heel characters that can be hated so much in professional wrestling that you actually like them. And, there's moments where he gets booed out of the arenas, and there's moments where he gets cheered on. And for also holding that AEW World Championship, I think it's an understatement of just how good he is. And, everyone wants to pick out. And listen, I was right there with you guys. I was wondering, did MJF have what it takes to be, to actually go the distance? And now the question moving forward is really, he's done all he can. He's proven it in the ring. He's proven it, on the mic. He is your best heel. And there's really, really honestly there's no one in the locker room right now. There's only, let me rephrase that. There's only one guy in the locker room, and I'll talk about him in a moment, or in a few minutes. But there's really no one that can really maybe go toe to toe with him and live up to that expectation or that hype. You're thinking of guys like, he's already had a feud with Jon Moxley, Hangman Page, potentially, of course. Honestly, unless this is why we most likely will see another Bryan Danielson match with him, because even though, I just don't know guys like Ricky Starks can, it's at his level, even to the point to get up to his level. Darby Allin potentially, but I don't quite know. So what real challenges does MJF now have? And maybe they run into a stalemate, and it's going to be interesting because, listen, AEW is all about taking that risk, all about going the extra mile, all about figuring out, trying new things. So we'll see what is in store for MJF, but he's the epitome of what a great heel character is, just like Roman Reigns in WWE. He was hated so much, and now you love him, you hate him. But it is, to be said, easy to become a heel character, because you could just do that one thing that's wrong and you got the entire arena booing you out. It has actually been proven that it's actually harder to be a babyface, because you got to work harder to maintain a certain level of standards to be a face than you do with the heel. I think it's a lot easier to be a heel in professional wrestling than it is to being a face. But a lot of people have made careers and have established themselves as a heel. Now, there's a difference between, and heels are AKA the bad guy, quote unquote, of professional wrestlers. So you have a good guy in a match, you have a bad guy in the match. A baby face is a good guy and a heel is a bad guy, just for a little background content there for you guys. But the thing is that there's also a level of heels. There's different stages of being a heel. And Ruby Soho was one of them who kind of changed her look this past Sunday by turning heel, signing with Sarai, excuse me, and Mark and embedding Dr. Britt Baker. First of all, let's take the notion that I've never thought to see Dr. Britt Baker be in the center of the ring, getting, being that face. We also saw Jamie Hayter, also that face, but nonetheless, I think that this is a kind of a relief if you're Ruby Soho. I mentioned to you how hard it is to be a baby face in a wrestling industry, and you have to have the look, you have to have the fatigue, you have to have the chemistry with the fans, and this for her, I think, can open a doorway, especially if she's given the freedom to be the heel that she wants to be. She could do so much to elevate and rejuvenate her career because let's face it, she hasn't won any titles since leaving. And you go out, and I understand, listen, you're not going to go out and leave the WWE and have instant success, before, the next day, right? Sometimes that takes time, and that's understandable. But I think it's a huge step for Ruby Soho to make this change in her career, to go down this different path, because one, it is easier to go down, but you can quickly establish herself. And I'm not saying that she's taken the easy way out, because she's not. I don't think so. But you want success, and you could now potentially, if we did not, before AEW Revolution, if we did not think that Ruby Soho could be one of the candidates to take the title off of Jamie Hayter, now we do, because now she's officially established herself as one. And I would love to see how this feud, and I would love to see this feud continue, and to just see how this feud unravels, if so, down the road. You got St. Patrick's Day Slam coming up next week. You got Double or Nothing coming up in May. So there's a couple of opportunity slots that you can really capture and captivate this new role, this new element. But it's going to be all up to Ruby Soho to take that guidance, to take that, to really take that freedom and run with it. And I think she can. She's very talented. She's a very talented person. We've seen that back in WWE. We've seen how, workaholic she is in AEW, and she doesn't back down. I think it's time, as we generate new talent, or as we build the younger talent up, to really express what we have at the table. And I think right now, one of the top people growing into this industry are people like Jamie Hayter and Ruby Soho that can really elevate and help, putting, AEW women's division on that map. You just want to add them to that fire of Britt Baker and Jade Cargill and Thunder Rosa. Well, now you have these two that can become more elite. So I really like Ruby Soho's heel turn. Okay. Last night we got a chance to witness a crowning of a new AEW TNT Championship with Will Powerhouse Hobbs. And I want to first go ahead and congratulate him for winning this title, defeating Wardlow, because Wardlow was not, after a power slam off the stage onto some tables, and Wardlow was not able to come up with for the 10 count. So here's my thing I was thinking about this earlier this week, and I've kind of talked about it, I believe, briefly with you guys, but I am trying to wrap my head around what has happened over the past few days when it's come down to Samoa Joe, Wardlow, and now Powerhouse Hobbs. So last week, what do we know to begin with? We know that Wardlow and Samoa Joe was facing each other at AEW Revolution for that AEW TNT Championship. We also know that last week in a battle, ladder match, Powerhouse Hobbs won this ladder match to give himself a contender spot for that TNT Championship. Wardlow defeats Samoa Joe, becoming the new champion, and goes on and faces Powerhouse Hobbs and becomes a new AEW World Championship. So all in within a week, we've crowned a new contender, we crowned a new champion, and then we crowned a new champion again with that contender. And I'm thinking to myself, and this was a point that was stated a while back. Didn't we see this before? What is the ultimate purpose with all of this? And that's what I'm trying to understand. And I can't quite figure out what is going on nor why. Right? Because we see Wardlow defeat Samoa Joe. Okay, I can see that. But that was a question right there, right? We just saw these three men kind of have a few months ago. And we're coming back around to seeing the same few men having a rivalry all within a week. And now that title has changed hand not once, but twice within 1 week. And so I guess what I'm trying to wrap my head around was like, if Powerhouse Hobbs was planned to win the AEW TNT Championship, why couldn't he beat Samoa Joe on Wednesday? Why did Wardlow have to win and Powerhouse Hobbs have to beat Wardlow? Okay, so let me first off by saying that I am impressed with what Samoa Joe has been capable of doing since he signed, with AEW, Ring of Honor, capturing both titles, carrying them on, both previous nights, defending them numerously. But this came over the last 3 months quickly, and we're still developing, that we saw Darby Allin give it to Samoa Joe give it to Wardlow give it to Powerhouse Hobbs. And when I started thinking about this, and I was like, okay, Powerhouse Hobbs and Wardlow would benefit being put over by a guy like Samoa Joe. So if you're going after the title, okay, and we know where Wardlow stands. I think Wardlow has established himself well enough, and until he gets a mega push at the AEW World Championship, I think he's not hit the ceiling, but I don't think he has much more room of establishment. So, but then Powerhouse Hobbs, on the other hand, he has a little bit more to work with. He can, I think beating a guy like Samoa Joe for the title gives him a little bit bigger image to this TNT Championship title than beating Wardlow. Wardlow and Powerhouse Hobbs are two incredible men of monsters of men that just can tear each other apart. They're, both fatigue, they're both, very, very, well, their strength, their durability, they're capable of putting on an amazing, incredible match. We saw that last night. But then why would you take the title off of them? I would like to see, there was really no purpose of putting the title on Wardlow for a couple nights, in my opinion. I would have kept the title on Samoa Joe, have him show up on Dynamite. And you know what? I would have Powerhouse Hobbs squash Samoa Joe. And if we are to see something down the road, maybe at Double or Nothing, I would love to see Wardlow and or, Hobbs go at it one-on-one. It still also begs to differ, in my opinion. I really want to see, I really would want to see Wardlow be the guy, okay, that I think could knock off MJF. And unless you took the title off of him so that he can go do that over the next few months, and we could see that match coming up next, then I would have liked to wait off on seeing Wardlow and Hobbs now and push it a little later down the road. That's just my opinion. I would have had Powerhouse Hobbs face Samoa Joe, maybe obtain that title, or you know what? Powerhouse Hobbs lose to Wardlow so that they could build up, better and further down the road. That's kind of my opinion. All right, our number 1 is complete. Let's step aside and come back. Cincinnati Reds are getting ready to take on the Chicago Cubs. We'll give you all of that information and more as our number 2 begins here next. You guys are listening to The Throw-In on the TNC Sports Talk YouTube channel.
Looking back at the good times before it all went down, climbed right up on the hillside, a different view of my life. You left me running on and on, but I don't care, would you let me in?
Alrighty, hour number 2 here on the program. Want to thank you guys back for two guys tuning into our program weekly. We'll be back again tomorrow, finishing up a week and a lot to talk about. Still a lot to talk about how down the road. Man, Major League Baseball, World Baseball Classics kicking on the way. Start beginning back on Monday night, I believe. No, Tuesday night. And continuing in yesterday and today as well. This hour of the program, I want to give a big shout out to our friends over on Spreaker from iHeartRadio, who provides us the platform to upload each and every episode to any audio streaming platforms you guys get your podcast from, whether that it could be Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google's Podcast, Spreaker, iHeartRadio. If you listen to podcasting on any audio platforms, we should be on there. The throw-in should be on. And if not, message me and we'll do what we can to see how we can get ourselves on there. If you guys are also looking to create your own podcast and want to find a way to upload it, see to statistics, analytics, and get monetized and get pay for it, hey, Spreaker is the way to go. So check out Spreaker.com for that information. So, we should be excited for Major League Baseball to kick underway in just 22 days, right? WrestleMania 24 days away. And this is the countdown that we've been waiting for. And, I got to say, with the questions that lingered in spring training before spring training started, you're like, well, how can one be motivated to even maybe want to go out to these games? And you really have to listen and probably take a different point of the view, because we know where the Reds are not planning for it, right? But it's sure fun to see them play baseball, especially these younger guys playing baseball as they went ahead and beat the San Diego Padres 10-9 in yesterday's battle back and forth. And trust me, yesterday was battled back and forth. It was a combination of 10 runs over 3 innings, and you're seeing a group, of runs being produced in an inning at a time. It was 3 runs in the third, 3 runs in the sixth, 4 runs in the eighth, which led to the Padres losing. And you think about this. This is a Padres team who kind of, in a sense, has it all, right? I mean, they have their best of the best. They got Juan Soto and they got, Alexander Bogaerts and Manny Machado. And I get it, right? These guys are off trying to play in the World Baseball Classic. You know what? We got guys too. And, it's, how do I best put this? It's just a sigh of relief saying, okay, listen, we're not the best team, but we're showing a lot of fun, excitement things going, through the team. Austin Hendricks, another young guy, hits a home run, 2-run home run in the 8th inning against Jose Lopez. And we got that audio for you. So listen in here for this home run that was given yesterday during the Padres and Reds game.
Well, the first pitch to Hendrick is hammered deep right center field, and that is gone. A 2-run home run for Austin Hendrick, and the Reds, just like that, have plated 4 in the 8th inning. And the Reds lead it 10-7.
I mean, they were down. They were down, heading in to the 8th inning. And it's those little things, all right, in my opinion, that really stands away from the Reds having a good outing. And the Reds, just needing a little bit of spark to kind of get things going. And it's also providing some challenges to the organization, because these are your future group of guys that you're hoping can be your major league talent star players coming up through the grapevine. You're expecting these guys to come up through the grapevine over the next few years, but you're seeing them play now. Luke Weaver pitched to help support in yesterday's win. He goes 3 innings. He gives up 2 runs and 3 hits. This is what he had to say after his start versus the Padres yesterday.
Was able to land some good ones, even when I kind of missed, specifically Cronenworth, the second at bat, missed. I wanted to call back to it. Threw a good one down the way, got him to pop up. So, that's the type of stuff we're trying to build off of it. Confidence, want to throw it, want to call for it and do those things and show myself, show our catchers, show the staff, hey, this is – and the other team, hey, this is a real deal. This is something that you're going to have to look for. And with that being said, I was happy with it today. They told me, hey, you give us 1 just for pitch count, get the up. And I was like, yeah, I got you. I'll throw it 100 miles an hour if I need to. And, of course, get out there. And the body is in a different place than it has been. So, obviously, the walk was a little bit bitter to end on. I felt like I wasn't quite to the point where I could throw it the way I did in the first inning, which I think is pretty normal. But that was a nice challenge to get to, especially going into a little bit deeper. And me and DJ were talking. It's I haven't been there in a minute. And I think that was his big focus, was to do that, to challenge that. I think calming the nerves a little bit. It's baseball, it's all the same game. So you kind of fit in naturally there. I think once you can kind of minimize some of the things that amplify, whether it's new people and new system and different teachings, and just kind of mold it together after some time. I think we're at the point now where we had the 3-point contest and we got some camaraderie going. The young guys, like to chat, and it's not just so closed off with different, groups and cliques and stuff. Everybody kind of unites, and it's fun. I'm having a blast. It's been a while, especially in spring training, and get so serious and so repetitive. We're doing a great job, I think, in that sense. At least the leadership is, and I think it's coming together nicely.
That's what I love to hear. They're having fun, and you know what? I'm having fun watching them. I mean, whether, it's always an interesting time when you get a chance to either watch them on TV, whether that's Bally Sports, or listen to Jeff Brantley and Tommy Thrall on the radio. It's great to see, 3 innings. Okay, 3 innings and 3 runs. And what you're seeing out of that is them starting to come together. Now, I would agree we're, March 9th, and you're 22 days away from opening day. I would like to see a few more outings for them before they head off to opening day. I would like to see them to go 4, maybe even 5 innings, just to see where they stand before opening day. But, right now, okay, the guys that I'm kind of really looking into as my top 3. Okay, I could only, we're trying to start putting this pieces together on what David Bell is going to do with this organization. And I'm saying Nick Lodolu, Hunter Green, and Luke Weaver are kind of right now my fan favorites. You still have Graham Ashcraft and Luis Sessa and Connor Overton in the background. And there's going to be a group of guys that are going to compete, especially for that 4th and 5th spot. But, one thing I would like to start getting back to is getting confident in having these 3 guys out there each and every outing. One problem that we faced last year was that the only guys you were confident in throwing out there every 5 days was Luis Castillo. And we started picking up on Nick Lodolu a little bit last year. So I like this, and we didn't see much from Hunter Green and Graham Ashcraft. So coming into this season, seeing these guys, I want to establish Luke Weaver, Nick Lodolu, and Hunter Green as your top 3 guys that when you go into the game and you see that, hey, these guys are on the mound, you kind of feel pretty good about yourself. You're kind of feeling good enough to say, all right, we have a good chance of getting a win, at least 3 out of the 5. And, yesterday we saw Christian Encarnacion Strand 1 for 3 with the triple. And I mean, listen, this is, yet again, we're seeing these young kids come up. So far, 20 at bats, 6 runs put in, 12 hits, 3 home runs on the record, 10 RBIs, batting average 600, OBS on base percentage is 571. I mean, this is really phenomenal work. And I listen, I get it. It's spring training. And we mentioned earlier, these guys have assignments, but when you see guys make cases out there for that, and you see like Matt McClain, both 23 years old, 1 for 1 in yesterday's ball game, a run, an RBI, a double with 10 at bats. He's put in 10 runs. He's stolen 2 bases, given 2 RBIs, 6 hits, a home run. I mean, he's batting 500, which is phenomenal. And, his OBS is 706. I mean, I think that comes down to the questions that's been asked a little bit this week in the Reds organization. Let the kids play. And, I kind of mentioned this a little bit earlier this week about not rushing these guys. And I get it. But these younger guys are going to be reliant on getting up to the big leagues and being this winning team. And, I know a lot of people are already ruling the Reds out. And I'm not going to say that that's fair to say, because come opening day, everyone's 0-0 and you could really see anything happen. But I mean, realistically, this year, we will see a huge transition into starting to see some of these guys make their way up the league to the show, whether that's Christian, Christian Encarnacion, or even Matt McClain. And those two right now are my favoriteable guys. And, you also start throwing in, right now, there's guys out there such as TJ Friedel and Stuart Fairchild and Nick Solak, who are all competing for a position on the main roster. And you're kind of like, well, we haven't seen Nick Senzel back. There is a slight, I don't think the Reds are going to hesitate if one of these guys are ready to be at the big leagues. Then the Reds are going to throw these younger guys out there. And I think we're going to, I personally would like to see these guys be, to kind of gradually come up to the major leagues. I don't want to see all these guys come up at once. I'm still not in a rush to see guys like Ellie De La Cruz or Matt McClain or Christian Encarnacion Strand coming up to the big leagues, at least opening day. All right. I'm pretty confident that there are going to be room during the regular season that we can see these guys up there. At least, I'm not saying that they need to go down to AA or even single A. I just say that there's no rush to bring them up into the major leagues. Now if an injury comes halfway through, or we get into May or June or July and we don't see, Kevin Newman, is hitting his weight, neither Spencer Steer, then maybe a possibility to see someone up though. Something to get excited for into the Reds season is to see these younger guys come up and develop in the major leagues. I know I'm not going to a ball game and I'm not buying a ticket for Kevin Newman. I'd be much more excited to go out there and see Ellie De La Cruz or even Christian Encarnacion Strand out there compared to a Kevin Newman or a Chad Pinder or a Matt Reynolds. No disrespect to what they're capable of doing. It's just, it's been emphasized that this organization's based off of a younger team. And these guys that have been plugged in, like Will Myers and Newman and, Strickland and Reynolds, are temporary guys as these younger players journey through the major leagues. My last question I want to get to you before break here is maybe start looking at the possible goals that David Bell should have as a general manager. One thing that I learned this week is that he is coming up on contract year, and the Reds have yet to, with how close the Bell family and the Castellinis are, we have yet to see a contract extension. Now, given the fact that Bell has came from a winning organization, and he's had to quickly change himself, should he be given the ability to work with these younger guys and for another couple more years, I say 3 or 4 years at least, before deciding, hey, we're going to bring in someone new? And I'm thinking about this, and I was just, pondering over whether he should stay or not. And he hasn't really done anything wrong. I think a general manager, when he was brought in to begin with, should be given a year to kind of wrap his head around the team, see what they're capable of, and see where they're at. But he's taken the ball club through the pandemic. He's had to adjust from the Castellinis and the Jesse Winkers down now to the Spencer Steers of the world, and they're just not the top level. And I want to know from you, what do you guys think? Should the Reds continue his contract and keep him going, or should they go out and hunt for a new manager? Now, I'm not quick to go sign him any long-term extension. And even if you go sign him an extension, I'm not thinking that he should go sign a 10-year deal. No, maybe like 3 years at best. That's probably given enough time to see these young guys come up and develop. And if you don't start winning, but what is the goals this year that David Bell should start, being like, all right, if you want that extension, you gotta accomplish something. And I'm not saying, I don't think that the Reds are going to hit 500 baseball, which you never know. But I'm thinking that maybe the Reds could push towards a 70-win season, or even a 75-win season. I think anything less than 60 at least, and I think that's still a lot of leeway, is, especially for what we're seeing now, is far-fetched. He's going to be tasked this year to be willing to adjust from, because we know that opening day roster that comes out March 30th, and that day, and those players that are going to be on the field on opening day are not going to be the same players that are going to be in June or even in July. And definitely it's not going to be the same roster that you see in September, depending on if the Reds could potentially capture or fight for a playoff contingency. So what should be the Reds' options for David Bell? What are the goals? And where do you think the Reds should be holding themselves standardized to? All right, let's step aside and take a break. When we come on back, we'll get you guys ready for the Reds, which will be taking on the Chicago Cubs today at 3:05. We'll get you the lineup and all that stuff, and also a trip around Cincinnati sports, plus WWE news, NXT Roadblock highlights. Much more to come. Take you guys up until 1 p.m. on a Thursday right here on the TNC Sports Talk YouTube channel. 11:25 here on the program. Take you guys up until 1. Want to give a big shout out to Epidemic Sound. Discover your world-class artists, composers, and bands. Find the perfect soundtrack and give your social media accounts the music they deserve. Epidemic Sound is a royalty-free music link. For more information, check out epidemicsound.com. Alrighty. I just saw this on the article here. They just, I'm not the only one that is kind of having an issue with bleeding, and you're kind of seeing the mediocrity that comes from bleeding here. As Jon Moxley, there was an article, or not an article, but a post that with Jon Moxley in his younger days, saying so deep that it didn't even bleed and catch me. Off guard, red-handed. Now I'm poorly bleeding. And I'm sorry, like I said, I'm one who is all for blading if it's done correctly and if it's part of the right storyline. And there's just some wrestlers out there that like to emphasize the blood. And listen, I understand you're trying to capture certain audience that is definitely not for kids. And I get it. This is a part of wrestling where you would say wrestling is real. And this is what the aftermath is. You do want to see physical scars from the battles that these wrestlers have. But at the same time, you don't want it to come at the hands of being, getting hurt and excessive amount of blood. I feel like that's just, I'm not one to look away if someone's cut open, right? Blood's blood, in my opinion, especially if I'm not up close, if I'm watching on my screen. But being, just doing it each and every night, it's like, all right, it makes it seem like this sport is beyond unsafe. And, whether you catch Jon Moxley or any wrestler do it or not on television, when you start seeing an excessive amount of blood, you also start noticing that, all right, well, maybe if it's unsafe or if there's something wrong with Jon Moxley, who is just bleeding consistently. So, I don't know. What's your good take on bleeding? All right, the Reds will take on the Chicago Cubs today, 3:05 p.m. And this will be a chance to kind of take on kind of the first division, a look at the first, their division rivals early on in spring training. And for the Reds, you're going to have Hunter Green, as the Reds interplay 7-5. And then the 8-4 Cubs will have Jamison Talion on the mound. And Talion is 1-0 spring training status, 3.86 ERA with 6 strikeouts, while you'll get 2 strikeouts for Green and 10.38 ERA. Now, I'm not worried. One thing I want people to also notice, and what I've noticed too, is that they're capable of bringing, scoring runs in ball games, not relying on the, they're relying on the little parts of the game, getting on base, hitting singles. You don't have to go for the long ball to hit home runs. And I'm okay with pitchers giving up runs, especially as starting pitchers. It's understanding that they're going to have to give up some sort of runs during the game. But it's the small ball that really is going back to fundamentals of playing simple baseball that I think really makes a difference. And this is why we are enjoying the Reds so much, because you're seeing, especially these younger guys, come out and, just dominate, annihilate, right? Just the little baseball things, defensive wise, offensive wise. And it makes it fun to be a Reds fan, to go out and watch these young guys that can potentially be something in the future. So if you're Chicago and you're watching the Cubs game, you could watch the game on the Marquee Sports Network, or for the Reds, you could watch it on Bally Sports Ohio. You can also listen to the Reds game on the Reds radio network, WSAI 1360, ESPN Cincinnati. The matchup for these two ball clubs, I'm going to kick things off with the home team and the Chicago Cubs. Batting first at second base is Horner. Batting second in left field is Happ. Batting third is Dansby Swanson. He'll be playing shortstop. The first baseman batting cleanup is Trey Mancini. Batting fifth is a designated hitter, Eric Hosmer. Batting sixth is Carlos Gomez. He'll be Jan Gomez, I think. Jan Gomes, I believe. I'm going to mess that name up. Yep, Jan Gomes. And he'll be doing the catching behind the plays. Right field is Wisdom. He'll be batting seventh. Morel is in center field. He'll be batting eighth. And Madrigal is batting ninth. He'll be playing third base. For those Cincinnati Reds, which we love to hear, is batting first leadoff is the designated hitter Kevin Newman. TJ Friedel out there in right field. He'll be batting second. Chad Pinder will be doing stuff at third base today as he'll be batting third. Will Benson will be batting cleanup. He'll be in center field. Luke Mel will do the catching behind the plate, batting fifth. Batting sixth is your shortstop, Ellie De La Cruz. Alejo Lopez at second base, batting seventh. Stuart Fairchild batting eighth in left field. And Jason Volzer at first base, batting ninth. And just kind of looking at this lineup so far. All right. Friedel, 412. Benson batting 500. De La Cruz, 235. 1 home run. And 3 RBIs. Benson's 4 stolen bases. And, this is kind of interesting just to see how David Bell puts these lineups together. You got Benson. I never thought Benson would be batting cleanup. Nonetheless, Friedel up there early on. De La Cruz is down below. So an interesting matchup, at least to say the least, in this sense. Alrighty. A trip around the horn, you guys, as we take things off in the hockey. The Cincinnati Cyclones took on the Iowa Heartlanders last night, shutting them out on the road. A first of 3-game road stands that the Cyclones have this week, with the final score 7-0. 6 of the 7 goals put up all by different players for the Cyclone. Josh Pasalt put up his 20th goal of the season, first goal of the game in last night's victory. They have a 2-game series on Friday and Saturday. Both games start at 8:05 p.m., taking on the Tulsa Oilers, who's kind of sitting down in the division. Cincinnati Cyclones, has had a kind of tough battle so far with the, remaining in second place, behind Toledo Walleyes, and Indy Fuels kind of all in that mix. So as we start making some final stretches down to the end of the season, we look at these 3 teams going to possibly be battling it out for the final spot in the ECHL Central. The Bearcats had a baseball game yesterday against Eastern Kentucky. They went ahead and won 10-5, putting up 8 hits, 1 errors to the Eastern Kentucky, 3 hits, 3 errors. While Bearcats moved to 7-6 on a 5-game winning streak, Tommy Buba put in 3 innings, giving up 4 runs, 2 hits, 3 walks, 2 strikeouts. Left fielder, pitch hitter Carrington Cross, 2 for 2, a home run, an RBI, and as well. They will begin a 3-game series on the road against the Wolford Toreros this weekend. The Kentucky Wildcats. Get to this one here. They went on and faced Ohio yesterday. Went on a win at home, 9-2, putting up 11 hits. They moved to 11-2 on the season, a 7-game winning streak. Combined pitching totals 13 strikeouts as they begin a 3-game series on the road against the Southern Illinois Salukis beginning on Friday. We'll get you guys more information tomorrow about that. St. Mary's was supposed to have a game against Xavier's baseball team today, That game was postponed. I believe they were supposed to kick off a 4-game series, but the bigger news is we're getting ready for NCAA bracket tournament as the Big East quarterfinals begin tonight against the DePaul Blue Dragons and the Musketeers. Tonight, tip-offs at 7 p.m. at the Madison Square Garden in New York City. Available on FS1, a huge game. Both teams are tied 1 apiece in the season's meetings. Xavier 6-0 in the quarterfinals over the last 9 years. Jack Nunge, Big East men's basketball scholar athlete of the year. Congratulations to Jack Nunge as well. 2023 this season, past season, split up 435 points, 63 assists, 525 from the field goal, 412 from the 3-point range, 686 from the free throw on completion. So congratulations to Jack Nunge as they look into the game. And, it's a fun game. They really, the last time they met, Musketeers won, and it was just, they're really building momentum, and it's heading into the tournament, wanting to, I think it's strong to build up, and they moved up in the rankings this past week. And so being able to, head into the Big East tournament, maybe making your last and final case in the NCAA bracket tournament, moving up in a position, definitely helps the squad out. So good luck. We'll be watching that tonight, talking about that tomorrow. We'll get you guys ready for the weekend sports tomorrow as, XFL is back and all that fun and good stuff there. All right, let's go ahead and take our last break of the program. When we come on back, transition to some NXT highlights as well. Roxanne Perez defended her title. What happened there? Has more still to come. Stay tuned. You guys are listening to The Throw-In here on the TNC Sports Talk YouTube channel. 12:41 here, back on the throw-in, the bottom half of the hour. I saw this Ring of Honor wrestling tonight, 8 p.m. Eastern or 7 p.m. Eastern time, and got a big impactful night as it is, I believe, it's Ring of Honor Club, and we'll see things like Wheeler Yuta taking on Timothy Thatcher for the Ring of Honor Peer Championship match. We'll also see the Ring of Honor Women's World Championship being defended. Athena will take on Willow Nightingale. And then we also will see Samoa Joe in action again tonight as a Ring of Honor World TV Championship is on the line as he takes on Tony Deppen. So it's kind of interesting. I guess, is something planned for Samoa Joe dropping the titles and doing something else? My opinion, I don't quite know. If you guys have any information on that, let me know. I mean, I would like to know. I don't know. What do you guys think? What do you guys think? All right, hold on 1 second. All right. Well, I was just trying to figure together the last part of the program here. So, if you guys are looking to watch any AEW or Ring of Honor action, that's going to be available at watchringroh.com for that information. But there you go. Oh, you can see some of these uniforms for the Cincinnati Reds. Oh my. I'm going to have to show you some of these players in their uniforms as Fernando Cruz in Puerto Rico, Javier San Martin for Colombia, Luis Cessa from Mexico. Well, Alexa Diaz looks good. Great Britain does not look like a great jersey, to be honest, in my opinion. It is not Ian Gidbots wearing that. I'll go ahead and try to post these up there if you guys haven't again a chance to see. Puerto Rico looks pretty nice. I like Puerto Rico's. I like Mexico's. I like the design that Puerto Rico has. So, yeah, good luck to you guys representing, heading down to participating. That's baseball. All right. The Giant spring training squad beat Team USA 5-1 in the World Baseball Classic exhibition game last night. Was it last night? Yeah, probably last night. Randy Orton, I'm no longer the legend killer. I am now a legend itself. That is a true statement. Just, what else is out there? Yeah, that's kind of it. All right, nothing too bad. All right, so NXT was back on NXT Roadblock was back on Tuesday, and a couple of things kind of took place, and we saw a return. On top of that, we saw a kind of a scary moment in professional wrestling that we would like to get to. The NXT Women's Championship match was up for grabs, and it was an incredible match. If you guys have not gotten a chance to see it, I highly recommend heading out, watching it. But NXT champion Roxanne Perez collapsed after defending her NXT Women's Championship at NXT Roadblock this past Tuesday. Now, she was taken off in a stretcher. She says everything was fine, but reports have been posted out there saying that she has spent overnight at the hospital. I have not seen any other further statement of her condition, And we do wish the well-being of Roxanne Perez. Now, here's where, how do I want to, I guess, go about this? I think this is a realistic moment for the fans. And I don't remember the last time when NXT has given us a realistic moment. In AEW, we see it all the time. We see injuries, of course. We see the blood bleeding, I think, is a realistic moment. But when two, people go out there and give us a hard-fought match from the beginning to the end, I think a lot of people forget to realize just how difficult wrestling is. And, a lot of people will go out there and say that, hey, anyone can do it. Well, you know what? If anyone can do it, then everyone would be doing it. But these are professionals, okay? And you could go talk to the guys down at NWF, even from the lowest wrestling promotion in the world to the WWE, which I think is still the largest wrestling promotion in the world. Wrestling is a fatigue sport. There's a lot of prep work, and everyone has different prep work. And I don't know what Roxanne's prep work is, but this image of her collapsing, I think needs to be taken very seriously, regardless of this is a gimmick or not. And you're not out here to blame anyone for what they did or haven't done, but I think it shows, and I think people need to realize, because MJF says this all the time, that professional wrestling is underviewed as a world sport, because the whole advantage of maybe pre-scripted and pre-rehearsed, yada yada yada. And I think that needs to get put to rest, because I want to, you go sit down, you talk to Logan Paul. What has he done to get ready for a wrestling match? And it's a tremendous breakthrough. Take a look at guys like The Undertaker or even Stone Cold Steve Austin returning last year. You take months. I mean, The Rock put it out on social media, say that even if he wanted to return, he's not in ring shape to go and return in ring and have a match. If you are looking to go, you can suit up in a helmet and pad on the first day and go hit somebody if you wanted to. You can go take a bat, go out on the baseball field and swing at a pitch on the very first day. You can go on a soccer field and kick the ball around on the very first day. You could take a basketball on a basketball court on the very first day and shoot a basket. There are very little, there is a conditioning part to sports, but there are very little that requires you not to be able to do what you need to do on the very first day of whatever practice you're trying to get into. You step in the ring. You don't just lock up right away. You got to learn the ring. You got to learn the dynamic of the ring. You got to run those ropes. You got to learn how to take a bump. You got to learn how to protect yourself, and you got to learn how to protect the person you will be facing. And before they even put you, in the ring with somebody doing any of these moves, there is a level of conditioning and training that you have to exclusively go to. And as we've seen in documentaries before, there are also rituals and pre-match setups and workouts that you have to do. And I don't know what Roxanne Perez's workout is. I don't know if this is a legitimate thing where she actually physically collapsed in the ring. Well, we know she physically collapsed, whether that was a predetermination, or was this something set up, or was this a real thing? But I think it's a clear image that I think everyone should take away on how professional wrestling is viewed through and through. Now, I sure hope it's a gimmick, and if it is, it's a very well perceived gimmick to what's to come, because she fought a hardcore match. But it is also a scary moment, because earlier this year we've seen Damar Hamlin, who died on the football field momentarily. And whenever you see someone collapse out of it's not natural to it. We don't see people just collapse out of the rings. Now, I was listening to Tommy Dreamer yesterday, or to this morning before the program, kind of giving his take on what, in his beliefs. And, that there is a testament. We don't know what really happens behind the curtain of a wrestling event. And he reported that there are plenty of guys who go in the back and sit down and can't get up, or they go in the back and then they collapse, right? There is a level of pure energy that one is, adrenaline that one goes through during a match, that if even if you broke a leg, you probably won't even notice it until after the match, because the adrenaline that gets pumped through your body. So, overall, I wish Roxanne Perez a speedy recovery, whatever the case may be, and some people don't eat all day. Some people don't drink, get plenty of hydration, whatever the case may be. I want to know, but I don't want to know. I just want her safety. Just like, I want everyone else's safety inside that ring. And I hope that she could get back. And I think it was a scary moment, I think, in professional wrestling as an NXT fan, as someone who watches NXT. And I think that it now just brings concern leading into NXT Stand and Deliver. What is the status of the NXT Women's Champion, Roxanne Perez? As much as we see a downside to NXT Roadblock, because that was officially a roadblock, Grayson Waller really tried to provoke Shawn Michaels to one last match in the ring. But instead, we got the return of Johnny Gargano. And I want to thank Busted Open Podcast again for once again kind of re-enlightening me into past historical stuff, because it really wasn't until Armchair Booking Wrestling Podcast that I remembered about Rhea Ripley and Charlotte Flair. Those are kind of events that you kind of forget about. Well, I will love to see Shawn Michaels in the ring, and I think he deserves, in a sense, and in reality, if he got an opportunity and he can captivate that opportunity to have one last match where he could kind of finish off the way he wanted to finish off, then I would encourage him to do it. Because listen, the last time we saw him in the ring was against Brothers of Destruction, and Lord knows that didn't go no well. But I like Shawn Michaels' role in NXT as a manager, and I like him to keep it that way. I don't quite need to see him in the ring, and it doesn't do nothing for me to see him in the ring, neither see him face a guy like Grayson Waller. We saw the return and the response of Johnny Gargano to accept the challenge, and will be facing Grayson Waller at NXT Stand and Deliver. Now, like I said, I forgot about this feud, but on the way out of Johnny Gargano leaving NXT, being released from the WWE, he was being exited by the hands of Grayson Waller. Now, so it's kind of like a redemption moment. He's not really doing or playing any significant roles in the WWE. And personally, I don't think he's getting received the way that he should be getting received, as he does down in NXT, there was that conversation, when these guys were ready to come up, that spent a tremendous amount of time in NXT. How were they going to be received? Because some of these guys just didn't look like they were main roster material, even though they had a lot of success down in NXT. Johnny Gargano being one of them, Tommaso Ciampa being another one, Adam Cole. And so, when you think about this, it does two things for me. All right. One, it it does actually three things for me. One, it re-embarks the feud that Grayson Waller had, maybe the vendetta that Johnny Gargano left on kind of negative terms on a downhill spiral. Two, you're now utilizing him. He's not really being utilized in the main roster. And I hope that he gets to stay, because this is where he gets beloved and he shines a lot down at NXT, and everyone loves him, knows the history. And, when you move up to the main roster, all that gets forgotten. No one really cares or gives a rat's ass about what you've been able to accomplish in NXT. What they care about is how you can entertain them now on the main roster. So going back down to NXT, I think really utilizes his potential, and he has a lot of potential. He's a great, talented guy. And number three, I don't feel like towards the end of his run was really how he wanted it to be. Wasn't very successful in NXT. Every time he tried to come up and get something brand new, it kind of just kept on falling and collapsing, and all that stuff. And this is where I would say he belongs in NXT. And we get a chance to see him face Grayson Waller, kind of get paid back. And, I would like to see Johnny Gargano kind of stay in NXT. Maybe come up once in a while when it's warranted, but stay in NXT, because, this is now, understanding now there's a history behind these two people. Kind of also now it inspires me to want to, kind of inspires me wanting to watch this match and see how it goes now. So we'll see how that turns out. Alrighty, you guys, we made it through another episode. Tomorrow on a Friday, we will wrap things up, getting you guys ready for the weekend. A lot of sports going on, college-wise, baseball-wise. Nothing really going on with the NFL, as they just got done through their tag. But exciting things to still come out for. So, getting you guys ready for SmackDown, on the road to WrestleMania, on the road to opening day, and much more. Thank you guys for tuning into The Throw-In. My name is Justin. Be sure to hit that like, share, and subscribe. Download us. Take us on the road wherever you guys go. All audio streaming platforms and much more. Until tomorrow, you guys take care. Have a wonderful rest of your day.